Well, hello everyone, Mannix here. It's been a while since I've made a video, but stuff has been happening, so anyway. This is going to be one of my favorite knives ever. This is a review on one of my favorite knives, but there's a big old rain cloud over this review in particular because this knife I got it's broken. There's a lot of up and down play. The guy I bought it from online said it was new, and it was not new. The blade was very dull. There was scuff and scratches on it. There was a ton of blade play. I managed to fix it a little bit, but there's still a little bit of vertical play in there, and I tried everything I could in my power to fix it, and well, I got it to fix a little bit, but I can feel it move when I shake it, and that's really, really bad. Like, vertical play, when you torque the blade around and then you feel it moving, it's possibly just pushing the lock because the lock's not very strong, or it's not strong enough, it's not tight enough. That's one thing, but when there's literally a gap in there for the blade to freely move around merely by shaking it without even touching the blade, that's really, really bad. So there is significant blade play in this, but it used to be much, much, much worse. You could physically, used to be able to audibly hear it. The way I fixed it was I just sort of bent, I had to take it apart, bend the bar forward. Absolute nightmare to put back together. Prepare to use like an hour or so if you want to take apart this knife, because it's very difficult. You gotta get all the parts together at once. Some screws in line, there's stuff, like this thing's constantly trying to pull it apart. It's an absolute nightmare. You gotta match the stop pin in there. It's horrific nightmare getting this knife apart and putting it back together, but I managed to do it, and I ended up fixing it a little bit. And I ended up pushing the bar to test it like all the way as I possibly could without breaking it, and it still had blade play. So that tells me it's not the lock bar. I think it's just the cutout. I think the cutout doesn't quite match up with the tang right there, if you notice that. It's a little bit off. So I'm assuming in time, eventually this lock bar will, like the more if I open and close, eventually it will just grind its way forward and it will fix itself and it will lock in place. But let's get on with the knife. The knife, they no longer make this. This was kind of a knife a lot of people saw and they thought it was really ugly, and it is. It's an ugly knife. But I like it for that. It's an ugly, like cool ugly, I guess. I don't know, that's the best way I can describe it. That's what I like about it. It's one of my favorite knives ever by design. And I like the weirder knives, so it's just really, really cool. But it was out for a little bit, and no one really paid much attention to it. A couple people did reviews on them, but it just kind of quickly fizzled out, and they stopped making them. So they're hard to find. If you do find them, you can get it for maybe like 120 or so. I ended up getting this for about 50, long story short. I'll just put it that way. But for 50 bucks, yeah, I'd say this is worth it, even with the little bit of blade play there. But any more than that, no, that's not a good price for in this case. But when it locks up solidly, everything I say in this review, just minus the blade play, because I've seen other reviews and everyone says it locks up extremely tight. So just pretend that this knife locks up extremely tight, because it does. Not this one in particular, but the model itself does. So other than that, I have carried it and I have really liked it. Got a lot of good use out of it. So even with the blade play, who really cares that much? It kind of just helped me learn. It's not a huge deal if you have a little bit of blade play. You can still cut stuff just fine. I mean, I don't really see a situation where you really, really, really would need it to lock up like a bank vault, unless you wanted to use a fixed blade or something. But anyway, let's get on with some specs. They're very difficult to find. Very, 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 very difficult to find specs on this. But I found some. 5 1/8 inch handle length, 3 3/4 inch. Wait, what? See, look at this. 3 3/4 inch wide design. I think, what? 3 3/4 inches wide. I think they meant 3/4 inches blade length, but whatever. 440C stainless, they call it a spear point. Kinda. See it like a modified drop point. I guess you could call it a spear point. Funky looking blade there too, I like that. Stonewash finish, I love the stonewash. Frame lock, there is no lock bar stabilizer. Tip up, right hand carry only. Stainless steel backspacer here. We have a titanium frame right here, and then another titanium liner right here, and then a G10 slab, which is a little bit more grippy than I would say like the Spyderco Tenacious line. Weight, let's find out. I know it's a very, very heavy knife. If I remember correctly, I'm going to weigh it myself because I couldn't find the specs online. 8.97 ounces. Yeah, it's a heavy mamma jamma. This is a heavy, heavy mamma jamma of a knife. But I've carried knives that were like 13, 14 ounces, and I didn't care, honestly. Some people really, really care for the weight thing. If you don't like the heavy knives, like, I only want a knife that's under 3 ounces or else it sucks and I can't carry it. Well, do not even spend one more minute watching this review. You're not going to like this knife, unless you're just bored and you want to pass the time or whatever. I guess, yeah, you can watch a review for that reason. But other than that, I would not suggest you consider watching this review. So, it's a heavy knife, but again, it didn't bother me. It's a heavy-duty, cool, weird knife. I like the crookedness it has. It's an extremely extreme design. I like that crookedness to it. Like, normally you would have a blade like maybe kind of more parallel to the handle here. I don't know if that's the word, perpendicular parallel or whatever it is. but it's almost like a pistol grip in a way. And what this aids in is piercing. I notice it's much easier to pierce, and if you're doing work like on almost like kitchen style work, it's good for that too. It's your fingers are very clear of the cutting board or the surface, but overall it's less versatile than just a standard design on a folding knife. But this is not supposed to be a versatile knife. It's supposed to be a weird, extreme, crazy, odd knife. That's the idea. So these used to go for like 60-70 bucks, but they don't make them anymore. So if you get a really crappy beat up used one like I did, then yeah, you'll get 60-70 bucks. But other than that, look to pay a little over $100 if you find one. They're rare and they're not very popular. Unfortunately, I think they're cool, but I do understand why they're not popular. I understand why people didn't like them that much, but very comfortable. I think it's very thick, extra thick, THICC, very comfortable. I like the grooves right here, or the curves rather, I guess, sorry. Little lanyard hole, tiny little lanyard hole. Little cutout in the G10 right there for that thumb stud. Thumb slides into place, and this knife, if you try to open it like this with your thumb, there's a very strong detent, so you can flick it that way, but if you want to open it conventionally, you got to use your thumb fat. So that's another thing I noticed. At first when I got this, I was like, what's wrong with this knife? Yeah, but I realized you use your thumb fat, then it will open up conventionally, but you use the tip of your thumb, you can flick it out. So even such a fat, thick, heavy blade, it's pretty easy to flick out because there's such a strong detent there. This is like only righty knife. They don't even have dual thumb studs. What a bunch of jerks. Boker, you're a jerk sometimes, I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's like a righty-only knife, pretty much. I don't know, if they wanted to do like the titanium and the G10 mixture thing, that's usually why they don't offer the pocket clip on the other side, which I think is BS. I think they totally could still get away with doing it, but I guess it's an excuse for whatever reason. I don't know why they didn't put a lock bar stabilizer in here. Does it matter? No. Lock bar stabilizer. Yeah, hear that noise? That's our house's heater. It's like really messed up. We should probably get that fixed. Anyway. It doesn't matter if there's a lock bar stabilizer on here or not, because your brain tells you to stop pushing the bar once you get up to here. But if you actually try and put effort into it, you can completely destroy your lock bar. You can fix it after you take it apart, which again is complete hell. So, you know, that's why I just kind of wish they spent the 10 cents or whatever it was to put a lock bar stabilizer on there, just so you don't have the option to do it. But then again, we could always abuse our knives if we choose to, right? So who really cares? It would just be nice though, has a more high quality feel to it. Other than that, body screws are soft. Be careful when taking these apart. I actually took this, I think it was actually 3 total times I took this thing apart, but still no issues yet because I was very extra careful, and I used slightly bigger bits than required right here. Because if you use slightly bigger ones, it kind of digs into the metal a little more, and then it creates a more crisp cutout. If you use a smaller one, you'll probably, the edges might end up gouging and cutting, grinding away at the cutouts there, and then you'll be left with a circle, and then you'll never, ever in 1,000 years be able to take it apart again, and you're screwed. No pun intended. So be careful when taking this knife apart. That's another goof up with this knife. There's a lot of technical issues with the knife too. Not just a lot of people didn't like it for the way it looks, but technically speaking and the way it's produced, I can see why people didn't like it for that reason either. And yeah, like the whole, when I got one of these a long time ago, I think 3 years ago. I got one for like 67 bucks or so. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied. On Blade HQ, I believe. That was a good deal, but it was really hard to open the blade up. And I actually, now that I think about it, I think that was because I had to do this, not this, and that's what I thought was wrong with it. But I think that's actually just the design. Maybe it's just intended to do that. But the hardware, that is a big issue right there. I don't know what the owner did with this. Maybe they abused it, maybe they didn't. But again, I do think this lock bar doesn't add up, because if you look really closely, see the angle that the tang is on, then look at the angle that's on. One's significantly more extreme than the other, I think, that leaves a little gap, and that's why it's able to move, because there's not complete contact. You can see it moving right there, but either way, it's comfortable, it's big, chunky, beefy, heavy duty. I like the little milling work right here, even though it doesn't do like anything for jimping, but it's still cool. Thumb stud's good. I like the blade shape. There's a, looks like a, that's a hollow grind right there. Yeah, it's a hollow grind. 440C. Yeah, they do an okay job with their heat treatment, Boker, but it's not the best blade still out there. Do I care? Not really. I have multiple knives. I rotate through them. I don't use one knife and cut 30,000 things with it a day, and I constantly need it sharp, so I do not care. Do have a blade still that's extremely high quality or whatever. 440C, if it's heat treated even just an okay amount, that works enough for me. And for the price point, it's actually okay. But again, discontinued. That's nothing to consider. Really, it's a super cool, awesome knife. Carries really well, by the way. I like the pocket clip. It's similar to the S2. I like to consider the S2 the cousin of this knife. But it's just like a big old chunky beefy. It's styled like a custom. In fact, I think there is a custom called the Dark Hollow, and that's where they made this a production version of it, which is similar. But yeah, if you like the design, if you like the way it looks, buy it. If you can find it, that's basically the end of the review. It's not the most efficient, it's not the greatest functional knife out there, but it's super cool, very comfortable, and again, like, you can scooch up right there if you'd like to get even more control, more precision work. And I like the ratio. The blade is actually, again, I believe 3 3/4 inches or 3 3/4 inches thick, like the website I read wrote. There's not as much edge here. I'll measure it and add in the text right now, how long the actual edge is, but it looks like you have a lot of handle, a lot of reach to work with while having a quote-unquote legal blade, because a lot of places they don't want your blade any longer than 3.5 inches, or the edge any longer than 3.5 inches, so cool. That is cool. I like when knives do little tricky things like that. Some people may not see that as efficient, understood, but there's plenty more efficient knives out there. This knife is not meant to be efficient, it's supposed to be cool, and it does a really good job at being cool. Again, one of my favorite knives by design. I'm still happy I have it, even though it has the blade play right there. If anybody knows how I could fix this somehow, that would be great. Thank you for watching. Bye.